Hello, everybody. Glad to have you back. I hope you had a great time in the breakout rooms and you were able to spend some time chatting with each other, maybe taking that bio break, getting some good snacks, although we're almost at the lunch hour. We have a fantastic presentation for you next. And I want to tell you, I heard a little bit about this presentation and connected with these two fantastic speakers via LinkedIn. I've known Nakeisha for a long time. She's from Houston, and we were talking about their session, and I thought it would be a perfect addition for our tech conference because not only are we going to talk about some of the challenges that we have faced, especially in the last few years, but they're going to be using a tool that may be new to some of you, but it is a tool that's a great way for you to engage with the folks that you are talking to in a virtual environment. So Nakeisha Brown, like I said, she has been in the industry for a long time. She is an adult learning expert. She has 20 years of experience developing and delivering different types of training, especially around change management. And she leads teams to identify and implement solutions. And she also looks at organizations' unique and challenging challenges. Both Nakeisha and Valarie are with North Highland. Valarie is a management consultant and also an experienced change manager. And she calls herself an evolving agilist. And again, she has over 20 years of experience, and she leads North Highland's Agile Change offering, and it does a lot of work on collaboration and eliminating silos to foster people-centered ways of working. So I think the wonderful thing about this session is thinking about best practices and methodologies to maximize virtual onboarding and new employees, but you could use the technologies and information that they're sharing with about anything that you're doing. So I hope that you are as excited as I am. If you, for some reason, are having trouble with the technology, both speakers said, don't worry about it, just enjoy the presentation, and you'll still be able to participate. Our virtual producer, Stacy, will be helping you in the chat. We want you to participate, ask questions, and enjoy the session. So Nakeisha and Valarie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Debbie. That was a wonderful and warm greeting. I have worked with ATD for a very long time and been a member for a very long time. So we're really excited to be here. I won't take much time. Debbie, you did an awesome job introducing us. We will spend some time talking with you today or sharing with you today about our experience and our journey in onboarding, where we paired experiential adult learning with an agility mindset. And then we thought that it would be really great to use this design thinking tool to really share what that experience was and have it come to life, since we're talking about onboarding in a virtual world. During a time where people that are joining new environments, joining new teams and organizations, or even existing employees that are taking on new roles must be ready to work independently the moment that they arrive. And this is really a way that Valarie and I work together to set me up for a day one win, and from her perspective, set the organization and the team up for a day one win when I joined as a new joiner a couple of years ago, right when the pandemic started. So we will share more about that story, and in the spirit of our keynote speaker, we'll be speaking to you from the heart first today, and then the mind, as we take you on our journey through onboarding and then using this wonderful technology. So with that, I will pass it to Valarie as she talks to you a little bit more about introducing you to Mural.
Fantastic, Nakeisha. Thank you, and thank you, Debbie. Today, we will be talking about the topic of onboarding. We'll be talking about adult experiential learning as well as Agile and the Agile mindset. And we will be sharing with you through Mural. So Mural is a wonderful tool for collaboration in these remote environments. It builds the platform for really good conversation and connectivity. And so what we will do today is invite you to click the link in the chat to join us in the mural board. For this session, I'll be running a screen share. So if something happens and the login does not proceed in the way that you expected, that's not a problem. You can still participate. We will be taking comments and following along in the chat, so it's not a barrier, but it is an invitation because we have a lot of activities set up that are going to encourage engagement and do a little play in mural, but play with a purpose. So let me kind of scroll down on the screen share so you can see where we are headed in the session, and then I'll say a few words about how we'll use the platform to achieve some of our objectives. So we wanted to introduce you to Mural. We want to talk about adult experiential learning as relates to onboarding and agile mindsets along those themes. We can see that we've got a pretty packed agenda, so we'll be moving at a brisk pace through this. And in terms of how we're going to navigate and use this tool, screen share is, of course, where you can see what's happening and follow along with our discussion. Clicking on the link and going through a very short registration process and joining us as a member. Joining us as a member will allow you to click on things within the board, edit, move around and participate in the activities. There are a couple of things that we want to show you that can be important as you think about how you lead sessions as a facilitator, and also create some fun experiences for you as a learner. So we're going to speak to both areas today. High level introduction to Mural, not super detailed, but we're going to do things like following, summoning, clicking on and dragging stickies as a way of doing dot voting, and moving around the board, zooming in and out. So just some very basic introduction to the functions, and then you can run with those and elaborate how you want to use those in your work. So I see that lots of people are in the board. That's excellent. I see that as you create your identity in Mural, you'll see that you get the arrow with your name or your banner. And I would like to point out just 2 or 3 things about navigation that will help us. So down at the bottom, you see the row of icons. And as the facilitator, I've got the blue star and a little Bitmoji there. If you get turned around in the board in terms of your location and placement, you can always just click on that, and then you will be following me within the board so that we're all in the same place at the same time. Additionally, I may occasionally ask to be followed, which will create a message and ask you to come join me in the right location in the board. So that's how I will support navigation. If you want to navigate on your own, then as you look to the bottom right, you see this panel, control panel, and that allows you to select. It's basically a map. You can select where you would like to be on the board, and you can use this slider to zoom in or zoom out. And then this is a browser-based application, so scroll on your mouse will also zoom you in or out. So a little bit of basic navigation. And then looks like we have a pretty good number of people who have joined in the board. I see 24. So I'm going to take us to the right, and we're going to get started with a warm-up activity. Okay. So we are changing seasons. We are changing some things about the way that we work. So in some cases, returning to offices, hybrid work, all different kinds of configurations. We are going through another wave of change. And my question to everyone this morning is, okay, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling at this moment? And what I'd like to ask you to do is to hover over one of our yellow-green stickies, click on it, You can start typing to add your name. You can right click to select that you want to edit the sticky and write your name, and then drag it onto the cat that best represents how you're feeling right now at this moment. If you get stuck in the login process or something about Mural isn't working for you, don't worry, just pop it in the chat.
It looks like a few people still need coffee this morning.
Relaxed.
Oh, we have some relax and focus.
Oh, you guys are doing
Wait,
great.
did someone say I don't have any idea what I'm doing? Is that what that cat says? Let's see. Let's move the sticky a little. No idea what I'm doing. It's okay. I think we've all been there, and this is a safe space to explore and learn today. So you're in a great spot.
If you're
Pretending to work. Crystal, I'm going to keep an eye on your mouse there.
Well, I'm on my work computer, so I got to pretend I'm working and.
Oh, you're
listening.
pretending to work over there. That's okay. You can bring them back
Yeah.
some great tips.
Okay, this is great. This is great. Thank you everyone for playing along. So that was just a little bit of a warm up, and gives us a bit of idea of where we all are this morning. So it looks like a lot of people will be headed for coffee right after we wrap up our session, which is great. But again, just to kind of help us get acclimated to the tool, we will be coming back to you periodically for a couple of exercises. Because these are, we are using it in the context of our session, but we invite you to think about all the ways that you can apply it for different things that you are doing, whether it's design and teaching, or you're looking to collaborate and bring a team together. I'm going to take us over to our next section. And by way of just sharing a bit about how this tool works, I'm using the outline on the right to move us into the next frame that I reveal. I'll pass it to you, Nakeisha.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I know everyone recalls either February or March a couple of years ago. Well, now 2.5 years ago. And that was when around February is when certain parts of the world were in lockdown and starting to experience and feeling and experiencing COVID. And in March 2020, it definitely hit the US and we were really feeling it. Well, during that same time, I joined a new organization and Valarie was my onboarding buddy. So we really had a great opportunity to really, from an experiential perspective, practice shifting from an office-based employee to working from home, and then navigating that, going from in-person services to working completely digital, and then doing it in a way where, as a new joiner, and from Valarie's perspective, someone that's there but taking on the role of being able to help someone get ready to work independently and have that day one win. And for us, it turned out to be an amazing experience. So we learned what we learned through that experience. We really had 1 week to really do it and to make it an amazing experience. And what we learned is that we both, with our backgrounds in change management, really came with a people first perspective. And then with my background and experience in adult learning, added to that change management foundation was the idea of really being able to come as an experienced employee and go, okay, this is how I best learn. This is a great approach to doing that. And with Valarie having this agile mindset and approach, and also having a foundation in change management, came with that and being receptive to, this is an experienced hire. She has some prior knowledge. Let's use all of those things to really connect it during a time where people were not feeling safe. And it was confusing for a lot of people. I was the first person from my office here in Houston at this firm to work from home. And so it was a sudden lockdown. There was lots of uncertainty. And as a result of that, we did such a great job with the onboarding that our executive came to us and said, hey, I think this is something that everybody needs to understand how you did it and how you did it so well. And can you write a blog? So we wrote a 2-part blog series. And this particular session that we're sitting in today is really founded in that blog series. And so we're happy to share it with you. Valarie, did you want to talk more about what that experience feels like?
Absolutely. So I'll just to speak to what you and I did together. It was an amazing experience. I felt an enormous amount of responsibility. A new joiner coming into the firm, wanting to create the opportunity for you to showcase all of your skill and experience, to be a good bridge into the team. And the complexity of doing it remote was extraordinary. But I'm also really proud of what you just said, that we each brought our professional backgrounds and knowledge to the task to figure out how to make it work well. I'll bring us into the next section because we'd like to ask the same type of question to you all as participants. So as you think about this time period that we've been in for the past 2.5 years or so, when you think about the challenge, both of kind of remote working generally, if you're already established in your organization, or the challenge of remote onboarding, if you are bringing other new joiners in, or if you are perhaps been a new joiner yourself, what was that experience like? It can be quite emotional. It can bring up a lot of different experiences, thoughts. Please let us know your view about what it was like for you. And I see that lots of people are already doing it. If you click on one of the green check marks on the left, and then just drag it over to the emoji, some fun, some serious, that represents how that felt for you, what your perspective was. There are many, many checks, so feel free to vote more than once. We don't have a single emotional experience of something like that. And give us a little bit of a pulse check about if you led a remote onboarding or if you were a new joiner through this time period, what it was like. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Quite a spread here.
it is.
I see quite a few on meh. I see at least 2, maybe more, people saying it was just too much. Frustrated.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do have a really happy. I think I fell into the really happy and good bucket, especially with my experience, hence the reason we're here today. And just a reminder, if you're not in Mural right now, feel free to reply in the chat.
And concern. We have a minute or two to take comments. If there's anybody who had a particularly poignant experience that they wanted to share, we can take a comment or two. Just let us know that you want to come off mute, and Stacy will help us with that. But if you had an experience that was very meaningful, either in the positive or difficult in the negative, and would be willing to share briefly about that.
Yeah, we do have one comment. Someone's part of an onboarding team, and they debrief after each of the lessons learned to make improvements and use the surveys for feedback. So that's very important. Thank you for sharing that. Loving the way we're using Mural. Thank you, Rochelle.
Okay, great. And Jennifer would like to comment. So Stacy, I don't know if you can help with the mute so that Jennifer can come off mute and make a comment.
Yeah.
You know what, Jennifer, we had you unmuted. Let me try one more time here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And as you're coming off mute, yeah, Kathy, it is a lot more emotion with people coming off 100% remote work and going to hybrid. So it is a shift right now.
So Jennifer, I'm seeing you come off mute. Try unmuting one more time, Jennifer. Okay, I think we've got you now. Unless maybe you're double muted.
And
I appreciate the excitement that I see prepping right now.
And it's okay, Jennifer, if you want to drop it in the chat, and then we can, I think
That's
we'll
right.
have opportunity to where everybody will be off mute in a little bit, and maybe we could try it again.
Yeah, we can come back. We'll have a little bit of time at the end for a bit more general
Yeah,
conversation and Q&A.
yeah.
Okay. So as we think about, the changes in work environment and how work changed so dramatically, it forces us to rethink some of the ways that we might have done onboarding or thought about onboarding in the past. And Nakeisha and I have been thinking about it in this compare and contrast type of approach, or in our world of change and consulting, we organize everything about the from and the to, current state, future state. And we applied some of that thinking to this question about how to characterize what we saw as important about the onboarding experience that we that emerged as we worked together. And a couple of things that are worth highlighting. In a traditional way of thinking about this process, and Nakeisha referenced it, the idea that guides the traditional approach is that your new joiner is a blank slate, tabula rasa. They are coming to the job, and as the person coordinating onboarding, leading that process, you are responsible for, and think about some of the phrases, getting them up to speed. Sometimes even there is a selection dimension of onboarding where people might talk about weeding people out. The process can be very, very heavy on procedures, documentation, how to. And generally, because of constraints of time, it's organized as kind of this big bang. People go into a class or they go away to do onboarding, and they're separate from their team, and they're not really integrated into the daily flow of what would be expected from them as they exit and get integrated and start participating with others. And the sort of underlying principle is that, like within this organization, there's a body of knowledge, you have to master it in order to be proficient. In our way of approaching it, it was quite different. So knowing Nakeisha's professional background, it was very clear that what was important was to access her expertise and provide opportunities for her to showcase that with the team, to build that relationship, confidence, trust, mutuality, really driving towards integration. So some of these are things that we'll dive a bit into a bit later when we start talking about agile mindset and principles. Another key piece was that it was not a big bag approach, it was iterative. So as we talked about the different topics, aspects of the role, performed shadowing, reverse shadowing, etc., it was iterative. We would touch something and expose multiple times, not all at once, and certainly not with the expectation of I show you once and mastery. That was not how we considered the project that we were engaged in together. Mutual exchange of experience was very important for us. And then prioritizing the connection to the team. So kind of getting out of this idea that you onboard as an isolated event that happens away from the organization, but that actually it is really focused on integration to the team, the organization, the ways of working, relationship, and connection. And so the visual that we devised to kind of capture this would be the rigidity of a wall, as opposed to the organic flow of, say, a network or hubs or nodes. And that really guided our thinking.
Yeah. And so really what we did was maintain a people first experience during the onboarding that Valarie and I journeyed in together. And the starting point was making sure we had the right content, the knowledge. We focused on relationship building, a lot of informal conversations, camaraderie building, and through like virtual coffees, using collaborations tools like Teams, file sharing. Some of the things that really stood out as far as our sample onboarding topics and activities included virtual coffees, What else did we do? We did a lot of customer intros, team intros, stakeholder intros. We did a lot of shadowing and reverse shadowing. So there were opportunities where if I felt comfortable being a new joiner that had prior knowledge and being self-directed, having an opportunity to step into a meeting that Valarie might have led, but allowing me to lead it, and then she's kind of guiding and providing some of that contextual knowledge that and insight from a firm perspective to pair with my existing knowledge. So we did a lot of those things, and it really built confidence in the way that we onboarded and brought a lot of these experiential learning and adult learning principles and approaches to life. And we can move on to 5, if that's okay. And the tips and things that I mentioned in the resource section of this mural, we posted the 2 blogs that this particular presentation is built around. So you'll be able to go to that blog and see all of the sample activities and onboarding things that we used. So let's see. All right. So using experiential adult learning to plan our onboarding. Again, we share a little bit more of this in our blog series, but we paired experiential adult learning with an agility mindset, and essentially from an adult learning perspective, just really focusing on those particular principles of prior knowledge, being problem-centered, self-directed, and finding my own personal motivation. For me, while everyone else was immediately shifting to work from home from in office, I had ironically worked from home from 2003 to 2011 and then on and off up until the pandemic. So for me, this was more like original, my normal ways of working. And so that intrinsic motivation was definitely there. And from an experiential learning perspective, just learning by doing. So focusing on things like time for autonomy, being able to create room for onboarding, planning that self-directed learning, as well as self-reflection to promote that critical thinking, ideation, and engagement. Drawing on my prior knowledge, I know I've mentioned it, Valarie mentioned it. For me, that is a really big piece of how I show up, to be able to come in and connect that my prior knowledge to that new knowledge and make those connections. And from an adult learning perspective, most of us, all of us, when it comes to experienced hires and as well as adult learners, we come with prior knowledge to some extent to bring to the situation. And when you're going on to a new job, you definitely have that. And one of the things I know from my training days, sitting in a room with, in this case, 40 people, we have more than 200 years of collective knowledge. So you definitely, for an adult learner, want that to show up, and you want to respect that and allow them to connect that prior knowledge to the application of all these new learnings. So making it relevant with some impact. So making it just in time. If they can't use it, lose it. So this will allow your new joiner to secure some quick wins and begin to help the team succeed as well. And then adults are practical. So just don't be abstract when you're teaching. Use real world projects, deliverables, and reports. Highlight the feasible circumstances and plans and useful resources and methods that the team problem solves. These are all the things that we did in our onboarding. And it really helped me to have that great experience, feel confident and comfortable joining in and really stepping in and helping the team and having that day 1 win.
That's great.
Thank you. And Valarie is going to share with us how we connected that. So I was really focused on the experiential adult learning, but she really stepped up and she made it agile, and she'll share some of those principles with you here. And I think I'm going to do a quick time check. I think we have 15 minutes left. And we have one more activity after this.
Yes.
Valarie?
So thank you, Nakeisha. So I will share just a bit about my perspective as an Agilist, how that informed what we did together as a part of this onboarding, and a couple of the values and principles of Agile that really have relevance for thinking about whether it's onboarding experience or design of other learning environments and specifically integrating people into teams. So Agile is, hot buzzword, all the rage. As it becomes more and more popular, there's sort of this insider baseball aspect to how people think of it. And my approach to it is actually very different. Agile is it's a framework for solving complex problems. It has arisen in the software development industry, but it has applications everywhere. And I invite everyone to think about some of the aspects of the Agile mindset that I'll describe, because it can be enormously helpful in all types of work where you're needing to bring together a team to solve a complex issue. And you want to do it in a way that is accelerating your ability to get to the value, to get to that goal, and also to preserve the integrity and capacity of the people on the team. So that's part of why I'm attracted to it. I see it everywhere. I use it everywhere. And I'll say a little bit about the values and how it applies to this work. So there are 4 values that describe Agile. You'll see them summarized on the slide, but things like individual interactions over process and documentation, that we focus on delivering working solutions when we're working in an Agile way. So that means kind of simplicity, stripping out administrative burden, being really laser focused on what works for the customer, whether that's, a purchaser, internal customer, or in this case, Nakeisha was my customer. Collaboration, which in the software development context is about business and IT working together on a consistent basis, daily contact, daily discussion about the work, but can be extended or applied to any place where you're needing to bring down departmental silos. This practice of daily collaboration is vitally important, and we incorporated that into the onboarding process we did. And then the responding here symbolizes the value of responding to change over following a plan. And the roots of that are that as a practice for building software, Agile envisions a world where there is always change. There is always some form of disruption, and that the way that you organize the work is to be able to flex, accommodate, remain responsive, remain resilient, and not be unseated by that change. You build the way that you work to be flexible to that. And what this chart intends is to kind of share the range of ways that you might encounter Agile. So perhaps through the values, perhaps through some of the practices you may be working on, or partnered with a team that is using Scrum or Kanban or XP or any of the methods of executing Agile. You might also come to it through the principles, and you'll see that these overlap with principles for lean, for lots of different ways of thinking about organizations, systems, and teams. And I'll highlight just a few. So trust in the team and self-organizing teams are a vital principle. The idea is that the team creates the product, the team delivers value, and so the team is really at the center and has decision-making rights about their work and organizing themselves to get things done. I mentioned the collaboration value, and that comes out in the practice of a daily stand-up, a daily meeting and check-in about the workflow. The Agile value around building teams and work around motivated individuals. So as a change manager, this speaks to my heart, which is that you do really prioritize care for the team, because that creates the motivation that allows the team to deliver the really great product, air quotes for product. It's envisioned as software. It could be anything. Reflection, not unique to Agile, but very important. And Agile routines include a practice of bi-weekly reflection about both the product produced and how the team is working together. And then another favorite of mine is around simplicity. And the exact phrase is maximizing the amount of work not done. That requires discipline, that requires focus. It requires you to be in really good communication with your customers about what you are producing. And the shorthand that you will likely hear for that is MVP, or minimum viable product. So I spoke to just a few. There have been books written about each of these, but just to give you a flavor about what was informing my thinking. And then we're going to talk about how these things come together, how experiential adult learning and Agile intersect, and how they can support the experience of a really energizing and successful onboarding. Okay, we're at 10 minutes and we are queuing up another activity for you. So at this, great, okay, I see that I have some folks following. I asked to be followed, so we're all in the same place. And in this last bit, I'll show you the big board and then I'll zoom in so you can see a couple sections of this frame. What we're going to ask you to do is to do a little bit of synthesis and to bring together these two things that we've been talking about. So Nakeisha ran down the adult learning piece. I shared an overview about Agile values and practices. We're going to do the match game from elementary school, but just to start to make those connections more real. So we'll ask for about 5 volunteers, and then you can volunteer by raising your hand in Zoom, or you can volunteer by saying yes in the chat. What I'll ask you to do is to look at the principles for experiential adult education that Nakeisha talked about, and you'll see them posted here. And there are some repeats. So this is not a one-to-one kind of exercise. Then I'll ask you to look at some of the Agile values that I flew over very quickly. And your task, should you choose to accept it, is to pull one of these principles and one of these principles that line up together into one of the match boxes. And then just give us a word or two about how or why or the connections that you see between these two areas. Nakeisha and I told you what we saw. We want to know what you see. Okay, so let me start by asking, do we have a couple of brave souls who will volunteer to participate in the match game?
And I think we have 27 people in the mural. So great job signing up, everyone. Being brave. I think you could just start. We have about 8 minutes remaining. So if you're in mural, just go ahead and start moving and matching. And then Stacy, if you want to take people off of mute, feel free to start commenting. So if you go home, reflection and reflect regularly.
Nakeisha, do you want me to unmute all that? Could be a little chaotic. Otherwise, I've given everyone the right to. Okay, I will unmute them all.
No.
Okay.
However, whatever works easiest. I'm sorry.
The
Just
option to
that's
unmute.
okay.
Is that what you said, Stacy? The option to
I've
unmute.
given everyone
okay,
the option. So if you want to unmute, you absolutely can. You'll have a pop-up to unmute if you'd like to. Otherwise, you can ignore it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
That's perfect.
Let's use that collective knowledge and experience. This is a great opportunity to share. There's a lot of activity on the board, so that is wonderful. Keep moving and matching. What are we seeing here?
I really appreciate the connections that people are making here. So I see match number 4. Somebody has paired intrinsic motivation, tongue twister, with motivated individuals. Absolutely see that connection and endorse that one.
Yeah.
This is
Problem
a good one.
center, welcoming changing requirements.
Mm-hmm. Did I hear a comment? Okay. I like this linkage. This is very good. So finding application, right, for knowledge, making things tangible and tactable, linked to simplicity. Very strong, very strong.
New concepts and simplicity. I think a lot of times when we get overwhelmed with things like it's COVID, it's work from home, we have new technology, new ways of working. Sometimes you forget to keep it simple and essential.
Mm-hmm.
And simple doesn't necessarily mean simplistic. So it's, I always like to keep that in mind.
I think there's another change manager in the house who in match number 7 is grouping trust for the team, self-organizing teams, individuals, self-directed. These are very, very good, really insightful. Okay. So there is one more step here. So what I will do is you're going to see a little bit of the, facilitator setup behind the scenes type of activity as I get everything into a box. And what I will ask you to do next is to vote. So please take a minute to scan the matches that are here. And as I set this up within the mural system, I'm going to prompt you to vote for the 2 matches that to you are the most compelling, that really hit home for you. So there will be a little bit of you watching me do something in mural as I start the voting session. And then you as the participant will be prompted to make your vote. And then we can take a look at the results. Okay. So I'm setting up the voting parameters. Then we'll start the voting process. And as participants, you will each have 2 votes. And you vote by clicking on a box after the voting session gets started. And Mural will show you that. It's very good at providing all the prompts.
Yeah.
Okay. I've set up the voting session. Voting is running. And now I'm beginning voting. So
if you're looking at the
participant,
presenter, oops, I'm sorry. If you're looking at the presentation in Zoom right now, go ahead and switch over to Mural and you'll see your option to begin voting.
That's right. And you vote by clicking on the gray box that you think is the rock star match, and you have 2 votes.
Valerie,
Right.
Are you able to zoom in a bit?
If you're thinking about how you might facilitate with this, you can see that I just pulled down on this caret, and as a facilitator, I can see how voting is progressing. So that's always a helpful thing if you're setting up a vote for your team, for a class or group, and you want to kind of see what's happening, you can do that. And you saw my process that I set up the panel to kind of guide where the voting happens versus voting all over the board, voting on this specific area. All right, 16 are voting. I see the numbers going down. I believe that we were roughly 24, 27 participants. So if everybody can get your 2 votes in, and then we can take a look at results and move to our wrap up.
Yeah. And then we have 2 minutes before our session ends. So we're going to go ahead and close voting so we can
Down
see
to the
results.
last 10. So I will end the voting session and we can scan the results. All right. So it looks like people thought that match number 7 was the most compelling. Match number 6, it was pretty close here. But 7 and 6 were our top vote getters. So I will close out this gray panel so that everybody has the ability to kind of hone in and look at those. Top vote getter here. And top vote getter here. Things are on the move. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I'll pass it back to you, Nakeisha, for the wrap, and then Debbie, you can take us into lunch.
Yeah, and I think it literally will take about that 1 minute to wrap up. So let's see, are we in that section? Thank you. So this is an opportunity for, again, for you to go in, use some of the stickies, talk about what you learned today. So you can enter a note there, as well as what we learned about experiential adult learning, agile frameworks, and then what will you be doing when you go back to the office? What will you be doing differently? So what did you learn about virtual onboarding? So this is a great opportunity to wrap up engagement when you're using this tool and to make sure that there are some clear takeaways. And before we go, I wanted to redirect everybody back to the thought leadership that we've shared with you. If you click on my face, which is next to the star, I believe, I'm sorry, next to Valerie's Bitmoji, you'll be able to pop over to Thought Leadership and you'll see there's some links to some articles. You'll see both of our onboarding blogs if you want to be able to see some of those tips. We posted some onboarding stats during the session. So feel free to pop over there and see more startling statistics around onboarding. And some additional North Highland thought leadership, as well as additional deeper dives into the Agile Manifesto, the Scale Guide, and adult learning principles. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you joining us and learning with you and learning from you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. This has been just a really interesting session, and I hope everyone had a lot out of it, and it looks like you can still participate and add things to the murals as well, and talk to each other and talk to our wonderful speakers. So we're going to take a break for lunch now. So get up off, out of your chair, go do something, look outside the beautiful day, and then we'll see everybody back at 1 o'clock. You can come in just slightly early if you want to, but we'll be prepping our next speaker. Hope you've enjoyed the morning and look forward to seeing you at 1 o'clock Central Time. Thanks, everybody.